Open your textbooks to page 86 and look at Self-Test 5.3. We'll look at section C at the bottom of the page where it asks us to find and label the following errors in the example. This is what you'll be doing on your workbook assignment. Now, aside from just the workbook assignment, you're going to be doing this a lot in this course and on the AP exam, and it's a very tedious process. In order to check your work and find these errors, you're going to want to look at every single chord individually and the movement from chord A to chord B. So even though the workbook tells us, or this textbook tells us, that errors that we're looking for, let's pretend it doesn't, because in life, it's not going to tell us what the errors are. What you want to do is look at chord number 1, and then look to see if there are any illegal motion from chord 1 to chord 2. You're looking for illegal motion. You're also looking for any spacing errors between voices. Now this is in 3-part harmony, which is a bit easier than 4-part because we have less combinations of voices. But find out for yourself what your best method is. I personally first look at the bass and then bass to each voice. So I'll do bass to alto, bass to soprano, and then alto to soprano. If it's in 4-part harmony, I would do bass to tenor, bass to alto, bass to soprano, tenor to soprano, and then alto to soprano. Again, it's a very tedious process, but you'll get faster as we move on. All right, so let's look at chord number 1. So we have a D to an F, that's a third, so I'm not worried about that. And then the soprano voice is a D to an A. That's a perfect fifth. You have to be really good at your intervals at this point and just know that DFA, there's your triad. You can spell it out just like that. So D to A is a perfect fifth, so I must check on the next chord to see if it's another perfect fifth. E to B. That is a perfect fifth, and they are moving in the same direction. Therefore, these are parallel octaves between the soprano and the bass. I would circle that and put a number 2 next to that for this assignment. Let's keep going. Check the alto, E to G, that's fine. Next chord, alto bass, A to E, that's a fifth, A, C, E. What does it move to? D, F, which is a third, so that's fine. Check the soprano, A, C, no worries. Next chord, D to F is nothing I need to worry about. D to D does create an octave. What's the next chord? B to B, another octave in the same 2 voices. That means that that is parallel octaves between the soprano and the bass. I would circle that and label that number 1. Let's keep going. B to B, G to B. That's fine. And then we have a B to D, which is a third. I don't have to worry about that. Next chord. Notice how this alto pitch is still withheld through here, even though it's not written. We have to count that. So we have a G to a D in the alto. That is a perfect fifth. Let's make sure it's okay. So the next chord, we have a D to an A. That is also a perfect fifth, so we have a problem. Now this is interesting because this is an example where they are moving in different directions. We have the alto moving downwards and the bass moving upwards. So this would be fifths by contrary motion, or contrasting fifths, because they form a fifth between each other, move in opposite directions to form another fifth. I would circle that and label it number 4. So far with this example, we found 3 out of the 5 errors. We're still looking for direct fifths and a spacing error. Okay, direct fifths, if we know what we're looking for now, direct fifths only happen between the soprano and the bass. So right now we can essentially ignore the alto. So let's just look for fifths that occur between the bass and the soprano. Let's see, D to F, nope. G to D, that is one. G, B, D, that's a fifth. Let's look behind it. They move in similar motions, that's a check. And we skip, have a leap in the soprano. So there we go. This chord would be circled and labeled number 3 for direct fifths. Last thing we need to do is a spacing error. Our spacing errors are no voice crossing, no voice overlap, and there can never be more than an octave between voices. Well, for this example, that's pretty easy because I can actually scan through this, and I see right here, visually, there's a huge gap between the soprano and the alto voice, so I would circle that and label it number 5, a spacing error. So that's what you're going to want to do when you write your own examples and check over to make sure you haven't written any errors. It's very long. You really do have to go chord by chord by chord and make sure there are no parallel fifths or octaves, direct fifths or octaves, or contrasting fifth or octaves. You also have to worry about the spacing, which gets much more complicated once we add the tenor voice in. That being said, why don't you try section D of this example, which is in 4-part harmony. It's the same idea, but now we have a tenor voice to look after as well. So try that one on your own and check your answers in the back of the book.